There's an experiment you've probably heard of. A child sits alone in a room with one marshmallow. The researcher says, leave it. And when I return, I'll give you one more. Eat it, and that's all you get. That's the Stanford Marshmallow Experiment. And for over 40 years, it's been used to explain why some people succeed and others don't. Willpower, they said. Discipline. Self-control. But there's a twist in this story that most people never hear. A twist that doesn't just change the experiment, but exposes something about how most of us, including myself, relate to Allah. And by the end of this video, I want to take you somewhere I didn't expect to go when I started researching this. Into a prophet's worst moment. Into what modern science calls the locus of control. And into a single hadith about a camel that I think might be one of the most practical pieces of advice you'll ever hear. Now stay with me because I promise it'll come full circle. 1970, Stanford University, a psychologist named Walter Mischel sits children down one at a time. Marshmallow on the table. Simple instructions. I'm leaving for 15 minutes. Don't eat it and you'll get 2. Then he walks out. Some children lasted seconds. Others fought themselves, covering their eyes, sitting on their hands, even talking to the marshmallow like it was a person. A few made it the full 15 minutes. But Michel didn't stop there. He tracked them for 40 years. And the children who waited went on to have better SAT scores, better health, fewer behavioural problems, lower chance of substance abuse, and stronger relationships in adulthood. The conclusion the world ran with? Delayed gratification predicts life success. Willpower is destiny. This became one of the most cited findings in psychology. Taught in business schools, parenting books, self-help seminars. For nearly 5 decades, that was the story. Then, in 2012, researchers at the University of Rochester, Celeste Kidd and her team, asked a question nobody else had. What if it's not about willpower at all? Here's the new setup. Before the marshmallow test, they split the children into 2 groups. Group 1 had an experience where an adult made a promise and they kept it. Group 2 had an adult make a promise and break it. Told them new art supplies were coming that never came. Only after that did they run the marshmallow experiment. The results? Children who watched a promise get broken lasted an average of 3 minutes. Children who watched a promise be kept lasted 12. That's 4 times longer. Same children, same marshmallow, same 15-minute window. The only variable is whether they believed the second one was coming or not. Celeste Kidd, who previously worked at a homeless shelter, said something that I haven't been able to get out of my mind yet. Her exact words were, if you are used to getting things taken from you, not waiting is the rational choice. This reframes everything. This was never a willpower test. It was a trust test. Now here's where I want to bring in a second piece of research because I think it explains why it hits us so hard. There's a concept in psychology called the locus of control. It's basically the degree to which you believe outcomes in your life are in your hands versus determined by forces outside your control. Fate, other people's circumstances. Multiple studies, including research synthesized in the Netherlands, a study of depression and anxiety, one of the largest long-running studies in mental health in the world, have found something consistent. People who have an external locus of control, meaning they feel outcomes are out of their hands, report significantly higher anxiety and depression. And separate research on the intolerance of uncertainty has shown the same pattern. The less control we feel, the more our anxiety spikes, almost regardless of the actual situation. Put plainly, uncertainty is one of the most psychologically destabilizing things a human being can experience. We are wired to want to know what happens next. And when we don't know, we don't just feel discomfort. Our nervous system treats it like danger. So when I tell you that waiting for the second marshmallow requires trust, I'm not describing a small task. I'm describing something that goes against basic wiring in the human brain. Waiting without certainty is biologically one of the most difficult things we can do, which is exactly why tawakkul isn't simple. It was never supposed to be simple. It's not just relax and have faith. It's actively fighting one of the most deeply wired instincts you have. But I'll also tell you why I don't think that's completely true. But first, let's bring this back to us. I don't think this is really about children or marshmallows anymore. You probably guessed. I think it's about every single one of us, every single day. We rush decisions. We try to control things that were never ours to control to begin with. We grab at certainty wherever we can find it. The wrong job because it's available now. I've done that many times. The wrong relationship because waiting feels unbearable. The shortcut because the long way feels it might not lead anywhere. Why? Because somewhere deep inside us, we don't fully believe the second marshmallow is coming. We don't fully trust what Allah has promised will actually arrive. And if that's you, I want to say this clearly. That is not completely your fault, and it is not a character flaw. A lot of us have lived through broken promises and disappointment, things that taught our nervous systems the same way that the Rochester children were taught. Waiting doesn't pay off. But here's what changed how I see this. Even a prophet of Allah went through the same struggle. Yunus alayhi salam spent years calling his people to Allah, years of rejection. Barely anyone listened, and at some point he just reached his limit. He left without waiting for Allah's command to leave. He grabbed the first marshmallow. What happens next is one of the most striking scenes in the entire Quran. Allah places him in the belly of a whale. Not one layer of darkness, but three. The darkness of the night, the darkness of the ocean depths, and the darkness of the belly of the fish. No plan B, no way out. Nothing he could personally MacGyver his way out of. And in that total darkness, with nothing left to hold on to but Allah, he said,
La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu minal zalimin.
There is no God worthy of worship except you. Glory be to you. I have certainly done wrong. No bargaining, no elaborate plea, just total honesty and submission. Allah's response in Surah Al-Anbiya, so we answered his call and saved him from anguish, and thus do we save the believers. Listen to that last part again.
وَكَذَلِكَ نُنْجِي الْمُؤْمِنِينَ.
Not thus did we save Yunus, the believers. Present tense. That includes you right now watching this. And there's something else worth sitting here with. Yunus alayhi salam wasn't punished for doubting. He was tested in his trust. And the moment he turned back fully and honestly, Allah answered him. There was no probation period, no making him prove himself first. Just sincerity and a response. That was the test. Now, I don't want you to leave with just a feeling. I want you to leave with something you can actually do. Because tawakkul gets misunderstood constantly. People think it means do nothing and just hope. There's a hadith related by Anas bin Malik that I think is the most practical piece of guidance on this entire topic. A man asked the Prophet ﷺ, should I tie my camel and trust in Allah, or should I leave her untied and then trust in Allah? The Prophet ﷺ replied, tie her and then trust in Allah. That's it. That's the whole formula. Tawakkul isn't passive. It's not closing your eyes and hoping things work out. It's doing everything that's actually within your control, and then, and only then, releasing your grip on the outcome, completely trusting it to Allah. Here's some steps and what it looks like. Step 1, identify where your camel actually is. So before you spiral about the outcome, is there any action available right now? If you're anxious about provision, the camel is applying for the job. Make sense? If you want to lose weight, it's restricting your calories. If it's getting stronger, it's going to the gym. There's always something you can do. If it's feeling tired, stopping caffeine, maybe for 2 weeks, so your body resets and does not require any stimulus to stay awake because now you actually have some good quality sleep. It could be having a hard conversation, putting in effort. Tawakkul doesn't replace effort, it comes after it. Step 2, do the action and then fully let go. This is the hard part. Once the camel is tied, your job is done. Continuing to grip the outcome mentally, replaying it over and over again in your mind isn't tawakkul. It's just anxiety wearing a religious word. Step 3, when there's nothing left to do, go back to Yunus alayhi salam's words. When you're in your own version of the whale's belly, when no action left available to you, that's exactly when La ilaha illa ant becomes the entire practice. It's not a backup plan. It's not just a plea to Allah. That is the plan. Once you've truly done everything and let go, and now you cannot find another way out, then you ask Allah. This is part of the formula. You are always meant to ask Allah for help after putting the effort, because you ultimately believe Allah is the one granting it to you anyway. So it's part of the plan. Step 4, remember the locus of control and flip it on its head. So psychology says an external locus of control increases anxiety because you feel powerless over outcomes. But tawakkul doesn't ask you to feel powerless. It asks you to hand that power to the one who actually holds it, which if you actually believe it should reduce your anxiety, not increase it. The peace isn't controlling everything. It's entrusting the one who does. A marshmallow experiment that was never really about marshmallows. A whale that was never really about a whale. A camel that was never really about a camel. All three, the same lesson, dressed differently. Do what's in your hand, then trust what isn't. If you've been grabbing the first marshmallow recently, rushing, forcing, gripping outcomes that were never in your control to begin with, I want this to be your reminder. Tie your camel, do your part fully, and then trust in the way Yunus alayhi salam trusted in the deepest darkness he ever experienced, that Allah's promise hasn't expired, and thus do we save the believers. That line was never just history. it's still being written. It includes you. If this gave you something to sit with, great. Stay tuned for the next video, because this is what I do. I go through research and relate it to Islam. And I'm going to keep digging into places where research and the Quran end up meeting and saying the same thing, just centuries apart. I'm a personal trainer who teaches health and fitness through the lens of Islam. That's what I do for my clients, and I'll try and give you deeper videos on topics like that through here, inshallah, too. See you next time. Assalamu alaikum.